Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Through the Eyes of a Therapist podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Acosta, and your co host is here, Andrea Luna.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to talk about some pretty intense stuff today.
Yeah, let them have it.
Yeah. Burnout. Burnout in service roles. And we're going to talk about when caring for everyone really starts costing you.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm all deep sigh.
Should we start with burnout stories so that people understand?
normalize.
Yeah, to normalize it. Like, we've been burnt out.
Yeah. No,
Not
for sure.
that it's okay, right? But I think, like, in a human services field, doctors, nurses, teachers, counselors, social workers are probably going to get burnt out at some point in your professional career, professional life.
Yeah.
The way that I view burnout is like a sense of calibration.
Sure.
So you work, you figure out, oh my God, this is my limit. This was crappy. I'm not doing that ever again. And then you kind of pendulate and swing the other way to like, okay, let me take care of myself a little better, set more boundaries. Oh, now I know where my sweet spot is.
Sure.
So I feel like burnout can be helpful in a way to experience, because then you start to understand your own limits as far as like scope of practice, the population you want to work with, the hours you want to work, the environment you want to work in, all of that. So it's part of, I think, the self-awareness process.
Yeah.
But working through burnout and continuing to get burnt out, I feel is like problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should share.
You want me to go first, or you?
I can go first.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay. I think the first time I experienced burnout had to have been as a caseworker. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. No, like 5 years ago, maybe. Because it was pretty early on in my career. I want to say maybe like the second year.
That's like COVID times.
Yes, it was COVID times. Because caseworkers did not take a break because we had to consistently be on. I remember even like during COVID, we had those letters that like we had to carry if like we were out
like
after curfew.
Staff and stuff.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So during COVID, while everybody was at home hanging out, cashing in their little checks, I was working, and it was a lot because people were, well, of course, like super heightened from like this huge global thing, and people were dying, and it was really overwhelming. And so there I was exposing myself for the sake of a paycheck, which was what I considered for my first job a pretty good paycheck, right? But I was working what they consider direct hours in casework, which is same here, like face-to-face time. Want to say I was working around 40 hours direct, and that's not counting travel time, that's not counting admin time, none of that. So in total it was about like 65, 70 hours. That's not counting crisis either.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was insane. And I was doing it because I was like, oh, like, is this good money? Like, my husband at the time was going through grad school, and so he was able to take care of things at home. And so I was just like hustling, and I had no concept of boundaries. Like, some clients would call it like 10 p.m. and I'm having a crisis. And because in casework, the learning curve is very steep. You don't really learn about boundaries or any of that. Like, nobody teaches you. You have to pick it up yourself. I would go to these like crises at like 10 p.m. instead of being like, nope, my phone is off at this time. Or instead of being like, nope, like, I'm gonna have you call emergency services, or I'm gonna call a whirlpool check, whatever. That did not occur in my mind at the time.
Oh my god.
So, and I would get up and I would go drive to wherever client, and then it's like 10 p.m. and I'm in the middle of like a super high stress scenario. And how I remember this developing was not necessarily like big flashy signs immediately, but like a buildup. It became like, oh, I really don't like going to work. I'm gonna cancel this client, or
Sunday scaries.
Yes, it was really bad. Or like, oh, I have to dread seeing this client, or this is gonna take a lot of energy. cutting corners as much as I could, things like that. And until one day, the way that it manifested in my body was literal illness.
Oh.
Yes, it was really bad. I remember like it was like 1 week where I randomly started having like shortness of breath and like just really freaking out. And not that I haven't experienced anxiety in my life, but I had never experienced panic like that.
Oh.
And I thought at the moment, because I had also just been like diagnosed with an allergy, like a food allergy, I thought that it was like, oh my God, something's
related
happening
to
in my
that.
body.
Oh,
Yes.
I see.
And so I was freaking out thinking that I was having like freaking what's it called? When your throat starts closing up.
Oh, like anaphylaxis.
I was like, oh my God, this is anaphylaxis. But like when you have anaphylaxis, logically, right? Like it's not gonna take 20 minutes. Like it's something pretty
Rapid.
an emergency. Yeah. But at that moment I didn't know. So I remember like it was a moment in my life where I was going to the doctor a lot and to the hospital.
No.
Yeah, because I was like, oh my God, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to my PCP and she was like, dude, like you have a panic disorder. I was having 5 to 6 panic attacks a day.
Oh my God.
It was insane. It was bad.
Ooh.
I went from working 70 hours to I couldn't work more than 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And then I got like prescribed Xanax, which is another thing because that like zonks you out half the day. So it was like a really miserable time of my life. But you're right. It taught me like full stop. Like I almost, when I think about that time of my life, I think of like when you brake really hard in a car and it's like, and like I had to halt everything and like completely change the way I worked.
Yeah.
It was really hard because at that time, at that job, like my supervisor was a little more understanding, but they were very like productivity driven and like numbers driven. And so I remember that like her and the owner were like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like I am trying really hard. And so it was really hard to like get numbers back down, but then eventually they started like having you add more, but I couldn't anymore. I was just at a point where I was like, nope. So I ended up switching part-time after that. And then I decided to do school.
Oh, okay.
So that was something that like helped level things out. But yeah, horrible. Oh my God. Nobody talks about how consuming that is because you can't like do anything.
Right.
It was bad.
It's debilitating.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I remember at some point a few years ago, I was talking to a colleague about burnout. We were like, why isn't it in the DSM?
It should be.
I feel like it should be.
And maybe it would be taken more seriously because I think this is a way that like, I don't know, essentially, if we don't understand how this affects us more or find better treatment options for it, like this becomes illness in the body. Like not only this, but like our body reacts to stress and like autoimmune disorders can happen, like things that we never even thought of. All of a sudden like our body enters these like really critical states because it feels like it always has to be heightened, and so like we don't deserve that. We're helping people in the service industry, right? So like that's such ass.
Yeah, what the hell? No, yeah, really. I think like what you experienced is not uncommon from what I hear from other service providers or human service professionals, right? Like we listed earlier, anybody who works with humans, it's like that exchange of energy that's happening on a constant basis over and over for hours and hours a day, right? That can really take a toll on your body, on your psyche. It's going to manifest somehow. And like that saying is, something's got to give, right? Like it will, if you're not careful with what your limits are, setting your limits, understanding your own limits and accepting those and saying, you know what, I really can't do that. And that's okay. Right. And I think that if we add the cultural lens on top of it, as Latinas, I know that something that I think our culture takes pride in is like having a really strong work ethic, right? Like we work really hard. And I think that that can be a detriment in a field like this. It's like you overwork yourself and then it's like, oh, nothing left. Now you're impaired and now you can't really be effective with your clients, and that's probably unethical. Thanks for sharing that on the podcast. I feel like maybe somebody out there who's listening to you talk about that experience will hopefully identify that in themselves and be like, you know what, yeah, that's burnout. And I'm also glad you talked about what made it better, right? Like understanding your limits, not just pushing through that,
Yeah.
like getting medical advice, like all that stuff is really helpful. Um, I can remember burning out twice in my career. The first one is a little more blurry, but the second part was maybe a little bit pre-COVID times. I've talked about the time in my life where I did 32
Mm.
32 sessions a week to pay off my student loans. And although that was really great and now I'm student loan free, I can't say that that's not a perk, but it was really difficult on my body and my brain. Not to mention I was pregnant at the time, so my poor child was being like enveloped or whatever, like
Yeah.
simmering in cortisol, poor kid. But I think that you're right. It's like more of a gradual burn, right?
Mhm.
Like if you think of a stick match lighting and you just like let it burn all the way down. It's not like a flash or anything like that or an explosion. But I do remember feeling pretty like irritable a lot of the time and just like pissed and like angry and like not only was I justifiably, I feel, or righteously angry about like some of the discrimination that I felt was happening at the
Oh, for
time
sure.
in my place of employment, but also like that compounded
Mhm.
like the work I was already doing, and I was seeing clients who were like victims of crime and like
Mhm.
mostly children.
High distress scenarios.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like some of those stories obviously I'll never forget, right? But like ooh, that was rough. That was a rough time. I also started to like lose hair.
Oh.
Um I remember crying on my way home in the car. Like it
Oh
was
my
just
god.
really extreme and I was like, "You know what? Like no. Like I can't be doing this." So my solution was it was kind of like forcefully done. I had to
Mhm.
have my son, right? So I took maternity leave and then I realized during that sort of like stillness in my life that like the life I was living before was very not sustainable and I had to do something about it. And I think my perspective changed because I also had a responsibility to my child and
Mhm.
understanding that connection between like maternal happiness and child mental health I took very seriously. So I knew that like my happiness was correlated with his positive mental health
Yeah.
and I couldn't just continue at the pace that I was going. So my solution was go to private practice. Because I still had to do what I loved. It's part
Mhm.
of my identity being a counselor, but I could not do it at that pace and under those conditions.
Yeah.
So I absolutely had to leave. Um, Part of the, I also had to earn an income while I was building my private practice.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, I call it um, like a sanctuary. Like, how they have animal sanctuaries and stuff. Like, I call it like the therapist sanctuary. I went
Gotcha.
to be employed at Counseling of El Paso, and they were just like the loveliest people for like my nervous system. Like,
Mhm.
I felt a lot of healing there. And like, it makes me want to cry when I think about it.
Oh.
But like, they were so like sweet and understanding and like almost the opposite of like where I was working before.
Yeah.
So it was a very corrective emotional experience and I'll never like forget them for that because they really gave me a lot of like emotional nervous system like refuge and I was able to be like creative in session again and like have some freedom about who I could see or who I couldn't see as clients and um they also fed my brain with like trainings and
Mhm.
things like that. So it was like a really good place to work. So it was like rehab, dude. Like
Yeah,
I had to like
literally.
rehab myself from like burnout.
No, you know what? That's what I think that's what it feels like working here. I think like I came from an environment that was super fast paced and like not very lenient. And it was funny because I remember my supervisor as a caseworker at some point, like I was just so done like with that part of my life. And I remember her telling me like, hey, like you're not submitting anything, like we don't hear from you. And I'm like,
Like e
and it was
me
crazy
vale.
because she would say things like,
Yeah.
oh, well, then I'm just going to have you stay here at the office and you're just going to have to meet with me weekly. And I'd be like, okay. Because
Like apathy.
I
Wow.
really stopped caring. And so,
Mm,
like, I think now coming into a space where you're right, like, you get to pick who you work with and, like, what modalities you want to use and how you want to be creative with your time and whatever. Even like something as simple as like what we wear is so
Mhm.
like,
Oh, for sure.
you know, because sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll go into session, I'm just like jeans and a t-shirt and like my potato shoes.
Mhm.
And like nobody is gonna say anything because that doesn't impact like the quality of work that we do,
No,
right?
it absolutely doesn't.
And it's so helpful. Also, even just like, I don't know, little things that are so like fought about on the internet. That's like, oh, having your water bottle or like having a snack. I'm like, I'm gonna do all those things and my clients are gonna know about it. And it helps me not feel burnt out. So like, fuck everyone.
You know what? I'm just gonna do what I
You
have
know
to
what?
do.
I will be fine and my clients are totally cool with it. So
Yeah. And so I think part of the reason that I'm so anti-oppressive in my approach in supervision and running the practice and yeah, anti-oppressive and like sharing power with people I work with is important because of those experiences of burnout. Because I think the things that contributed to my burnout specifically are like the micromanagement,
yeah.
the discrimination and racism that I experienced, um, the stealing ideas, like not giving credit to people, like being frustrated because you can't be creative or like you have a really good idea but because your supervisor doesn't like you, they're not going to do it, they're not going to help you out or back you up. Like I think I learned all the things that I didn't want to do, and like I'm trying to do the opposite, like actively, because I think like we're okay. The thing about therapists is that I really don't think that we should be micromanaged. We are professionals, meaning like we have a whole ass master's degree and we were able to like have the tenacity and responsibility and um self initiating sort of qualities that
Mm-hmm.
got us to this point, and then you're going to tell me that I can't wear jeans?
No, for real.
No mames.
Yeah, no, for
You
real.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that's so dumb.
Like all the
DUM
fucking
dumb.
things we know, like,
Yeah.
and like it comes down to shit like that.
Yeah,
Like,
really. Like you clocked in, mind you, okay, even though we're like hour by hour salaried employees, like you clocked in a minute late or whatever. And I'm like, because that's what really matters. You know what I
oh,
mean? Like,
I remember a really crazy thing that like I learned at my internship. And like I think about her now and I'm like, my poor supervisor back then. Like I admired her so much because I was like, how the fuck do you do this? But it was an issue how long they took to go get somebody from the waiting room. If you took more than a couple of minutes, you the I guess her supervisor would be like, what's going on? Somebody's waiting too long. She had to like run into the bathroom and then you couldn't end sessions super early, like unless like, I don't know, something happened or whatever.
this is also why I can't be employed by
Exactly.
because my petty ass will be like, I'm taking a shit. Like, what do you want? You know what I
Literally.
mean? Like,
Literally.
or slowly walk to the waiting room.
I just remember hearing that
bro.
that teams do every time something happened, or like if they had any off time, like let's say clients canceled, it was your job to call and make sure that you could fill that spot with somebody else.
Wow.
That's insane. That is insane because I think, and I think it's okay to say it, like sometimes when like somebody calls and there's like can't make it, we're like, cool, I'm gonna do my notes and I'm gonna take a second and
It's
just
a time
rot.
to like not do anything.
Yeah.
Because you work your brain so hard.
Literally, like I will never be upset if a client cancels, like ever. I'm
No,
like, cool.
yeah.
Like
They're pretty apologetic about it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know.
you know what? No, like it's fine.
I'm like, don't
Like,
even worry.
I had something else to do, or like now I can go take my nap. Like I don't know.
Literally,
Like it's
yeah.
fine.
So I
Like,
couldn't imagine having to go through like all clients and then be like, can you come in? Can you come in? Can you come in? Like,
for
what?
what? Like 20 minutes?
Literally. Or like, can you do an online session? Can you jump on now? Like, what the fuck? And yeah, I think about her sometimes and I'm like, I'm so glad you're doing better. I know you sometimes watch. I hope you hear this.
Oh my god.
So
I know
happy
who
for
you're
you.
talking about. I also don't know how you put up with that for so long, girl.
Yeah, for real.
We need to like have lunch over that because that's wild. I'm sure that if we recorded a podcast with like a bunch of other therapists who worked in like a
community
nonprofit
mental
setting or
health.
community mental health, you would hear some shit.
No,
like
for real.
it's insane.
Yeah.
And I know that some places have it like way worse or whatever, but like I just don't think this is the time or place or profession to be doing that with.
For
Like
sure.
productivity stuff, quota stuff. Like, no,
Mm.
no micromanaging. This is one of those careers where you really, there's an art to it and there's like a sacredness to it. And I think when people start to put profit over their clinicians or over clients, that's when all of that gets lost. And
Well,
then it becomes transactional, it becomes cold,
mm-hmm.
it becomes people are burnt out, they're not doing the best work.
And then clients suffer, and then there's more danger. Yeah.
And then it's a cycle and then it perpetuates.
I think it's just it's so sad because I think like systems have really monetized mental health, and like there's a huge need for mental health, especially more as like we bring light to it and like we educate people on it, because I think like most of us carry some form of just mental illness or stress, right? Because just society that we live in, like living conditions are shitty, right? And so I think it sucks to see like certain systems monetizing off of people suffering, but also that's just kind of unfortunately how the world is. And so instead of, you know, feeding the right channels, like I don't know, scholarships or like education programs to create more clinicians, instead we are burning out and expecting overproduction from the ones that already exist. But that creates a culture of like either more burnout or just people not wanting to be in the field. When it's okay, like if you have all this money, cool, but then like flip it over to something positive. But I mean, that's wishful thinking in the system, I guess, for those bigger systems that carry the money.
And it's important that you frame it that way, because something that we were talking about a little bit before we started recording this episode was how self-care when you're burnt out is like bullshit, right? Like, I'm not gonna go get a pedicure and like my fucking burnout's gonna go
for real.
Like,
that'd be so
no.
nice.
Or like, oh, you gave me a jeans pass for Friday, like
or a pizza
my
party.
burnout's gone. Dude,
oh God, not a pizza party.
I would get so upset. Like, I put it on TikTok a long time ago, like a letter that we got from like our leadership one time that was like, for Christmas you get to wear jeans, and it was like a little like greeting card looking thing, and I was like, thank you, I'm so appreciated. Like, are you kidding me?
That's
like
insane.
No, you know, like, first of all, money dollars. Second of all, like, give me some flexibility, some time off. Like, let me listen to my body. Let me be intuitive to myself. And I know that, like, good work will come from that. And that's why I try to do that with people who work at Clarity, because I know that if they are in charge of their own schedules and their own lives, and of course we have boundaries and we have policies and things like that, but it's not like I'm driving it to the point where it drives the people away. It's more like, this is what you have to do. I trust you to do it. And I know you're going to do it because you're a master's level clinician and you're an expert at productivity. You're an expert at writing things down. Like, I'm not going to have to micromanage the shit out of you to make sure that you're like doing these things, and take care of yourself. And that's when people are going to want to see clients and more clients and add to their own caseloads and be adventurous and clinically curious, and appropriate risk taking will take place. That's what I have seen in this model. And we hardly ever have to worry about like profit margins or things like that, as long as we're smart with our income and things like that. It's not like, oh shit, like now we're like everybody has to start seeing more clients. Like, it figures itself out, I feel like, in that sort of ecosystem. Do with that what you will. But something that I wanted to mention about burnout is like, not only is burnout specific for human service professionals and social workers and counselors because of the work, but because of the environment we work in. And sometimes, and I think what I experienced was burning out because I wanted to fight against that system.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to advocate. I'm going to fight. This isn't right. And I'm very social justice oriented, as I have learned that is an ADHD quality of mine. And I'm just very sensitive to injustice. And it's just like something that like I was basically beating a dead horse. And it's like so sad because like I wasn't being listened to. And it was just kind of like, dang, I'm burning myself out on this topic. It was just better that I leave. You know what I mean? So I think people of color and people who are in marginalized communities experience burnout way more. And there's research on that, right? Like we experience burnout at a higher rate because of those environmental things like injustice and
For sure.
discrimination and racism and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's important to also put that layer on top of things. Um, but that's all I wanted to add.
Let's talk a little bit about like I guess how burnout presents itself in case like anybody's wondering like am I experiencing that? Um there's a lot of components and I'm going to list off a few and then like feel free to piggyback, but emotional exhaustion is a big one, compassion fatigue, um feeling numb or disconnected, functioning on autopilot, so kind of like you're watching yourself like from an outside perspective. I think of it like watching a movie, kind of like you're watching like a movie
It's
of
like
your own life.
mindless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You lose patience faster, whether it be like at work or with your family, with friends, with yourself, and then just really feeling like you really have nothing else to give. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the hardest one, especially in service roles, because we want to be here to help, but then also we're like, I don't know how else. I don't know what
Yeah.
else I can do. I'm failing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's like, I don't know, something really hard to carry in this industry.
Yeah, I agree. And it intersects with like imposter syndrome and how that can
Mm-hmm.
worsen if you
Mm-hmm.
already, were feeling that or experiencing that. It
Yeah.
like becomes cyclical. A lot of this is cyclical. And I think part of it is breaking that cycle. And that's why I like to talk to like newer counselors or even counselors just, like me or like seasoned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the self awareness component that you have and that quality and characteristic is so important
Yeah.
because when you know yourself and you can say, you know what, I'm experiencing or I'm crawling toward like burnout, I need to stop it. And that's so important, like knowing yourself, right? Because then you can be your own best advocate and understand where you need to place those limits.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Something important too, though, is like, I think because we are those like wounded healers, right?
Hmm.
We want really hard to become something that we didn't have.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we develop this, I don't know, dynamic or issue, I guess, of always being available. And I know that's something I struggled with like earlier on when I started this work, which it was a lot of like overextending myself, taking any client. And I think as an associate, it's also because of like that pressure to
Finish your
finish your hours,
hours.
right?
Yeah.
And so particularly because of like monetary financial things, like we want to get paid better, quicker. And so there's a lot of blurred boundaries and just like being productive. But we quickly learn that that's just it can't be done, right? We can't
It's
always be.
counterintuitive
Yeah,
too.
we can't.
Yeah, because if you burn yourself out with things like that, right, like smaller administrative tasks or like always being available for client phone calls or
Hmm.
texting them in the middle of the night, it's going to take a toll on you. And then you will be less effective in session, like just as a therapist in
Hmm.
general, right? So it's actually much more productive and effective to rest
Yeah,
and to set limits and boundaries and uphold those boundaries and having a workplace that allows you to uphold boundaries,
for
right?
sure.
Not just like, oh, well, we want you to self care. Oh, but don't do that. Or, oh,
Hmm.
you got to meet this quota. It's like, well, what the fuck? Like, what kind of message is that? It's like messed up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like it, something important, and I think a lot of people might have some struggles with this, is like the always being available thing also bleeds into like in session always feeling like you have to have an answer, and
Mm.
that happens early on in careers. And I'm sharing because it's something that I've recently went through like the last, I don't know, 6 months, where it was like fuck, like I don't know how to handle this. Okay, I'm gonna read and I'm gonna have to find a way to treat this, da, da, da. And you forget that the basic thing in therapy is like the relationship,
Hmm.
and that in itself has like is just healing to clients. And so when we overextend ourselves like that, right, when we like do more work than the client is what I've heard, um it becomes really challenging, because then I'm like, I think about it now and I'm like, am I therapying myself or the client? And then I'm like, weird. Like,
Right.
I shouldn't.
Which is why good supervision is important, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
then we can help you catch those
Yep.
patterns. Like, wait, like, are you nervous about that outcome for you
Mm-hmm.
or for the client?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when does it become about you? Something that one of my professors told me, who was really cool. She was awesome. She had a very non-linear way of thinking and like explaining things. But something that she wanted to reiterate to us was, when we start to work harder than a client, work harder in that sense of like burning yourself out, trying to come up with an answer, is a power grab.
Yeah.
Because who are we in that person's life to be like, I have the solution for you
Mm-hmm.
and this is what you should do?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, whoa, like, hold on, check your privilege, check your power dynamic, because that's not the point.
Yeah. Who are we to remove somebody's opportunity for growth?
Exactly.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. So you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to understand every nuance or life experience or everything. You just have to be present. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're burned out, you can't be present.
Yeah. And here's some examples of how this looks like in other professions too. Because, well, we know like for therapists, it might look like, holding emotional space for 8 hours or adding one more client to your very long day or working outside of hours. But for teachers, right, managing 30 personalities at once or maybe having one like very high needs child in your class when like you're not equipped for that or you don't have the support for it. Nurses running on caffeine and like survival instincts. I think like hospital culture is crazy for that, right? And even like medical professionals like doctors or nurses who work like those crazy 12-hour shifts. Oh,
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Customer service workers being like yelled at and like emotionally abused. That's another example because what the fuck? Like I remember that when I was like younger, like just getting yelled at for shit in like my retail job, and it was so much.
It's
People
a
be
lot.
doing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh there's a lot of jobs that really require like emotional stability, right? But nothing like the service industry. I think like I often think it's funny because I'll joke around sometimes with friends and I'm like, oh, I should have been like an accountant. I'm like, numbers
I
wouldn't
should
like,
have worked at like a
yeah,
bank as a
I'm like,
teller.
numbers wouldn't do this to me.
Right.
Uh,
Data entry.
no, yeah, but
For sure.
I think, yeah, I mean, we have to recognize it because I think helping people can become really addictive
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. Um,
Well, it's that whole power dynamic thing,
mhm,
right? Like, I'm needed and I'm wanted
mhm.
and I'm important because of that.
Yeah, yeah. And so then we start feeling guilty when we rest. Our self worth is really tied around usefulness or like people pleasing, right? Or being like the strong one, the one that can
Oh,
hold it together.
I think that a lot of people who are therapists are people pleasers, like either
Gosh.
recovering or they are
Or
currently.
eldest daughters.
Or eldest eldest Mexican daughters, yes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
because I mean, basically, I don't know. It puts in question our identity, right? Of like, who am I if I'm not helping somebody?
Mhm.
And it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like trigger flashbacks of the war.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really. And I think that it's important again, that self-awareness and insight is so important in this field, not only because of what you say in session or your interventions or your demeanor and all that important stuff
Mm-hmm.
for the job, but also for your well-being.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I think we normalize a lot of the burnout symptoms too, don't you think?
Oh yeah. I
Like,
think there's a lot of hustle culture, especially in like private practice,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Or um just achievement based recognition. Like,
yeah,
we go through all this schooling to get like good grades or have like a 4.0 or whatever,
mm-hmm,
and then we're like super productive and that's all we know how to be.
mm-hmm,
And what's really messed up about working with humans is that there's no like outcome, right? Like, it's so unpredictable. Like,
yeah,
a client can just drop out of session whenever they want,
yeah,
or
no certainty.
they'll do the opposite of what you suggest or like what you've talked about the week before and agreed upon or whatever. And it's like, oh my God. So then, yeah, like that sense of failure, that's what's messed up about it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a hard thing too, because I mean, like we're humans. We're gonna say sometimes something that doesn't land right, or I don't know, something I do that I used to be really hard on myself on is like I tend to like instead of pausing and like editing what I'm going to talk about, I'll just keep going and it sounds like this big ball of like nonsense. And then sometimes I'll say that, something like that, and then a client will be like, I'm not understanding, and I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, but now I've done a better job of like, you know what? That was on me, let me reframe. And that gives me a second to like sit with that and then be like, okay, here's what I was trying to say. But before I would be like, fuck. Like I have fucked up the whole session. Like it's ruined. And that's not, that's not the case.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, understanding why you are doing something or saying something, and is it about you or is it clinically appropriate? Is it for the client?
Yeah, I'm like, most of the time people like don't even notice or
Yeah.
like in their head and like don't care. I know it's happened to me with my therapist and I'm like, oh, you messed up. Girl, I'm like somewhere else.
Yeah, right?
Trying to cope.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to just cope with this. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what actually helps though, because the internet has terrible advice for birds. And like things like just go, like you said, go get a pedicure or like just take a bubble bath.
Or let them.
Or oh my god, the fucking. You know what I hate though? Okay, because I saw it too, like in our little agenda, like the whole rise and grind shit, and I hate it now because I used to be like that, and I'm like, God, like that part of me was such a hypocrite. But it's okay because she was doing the best. But like rise and grind is insane. Like
Yeah.
oh, like that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think like our parents are very like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. On a Saturday morning at 5, 6 in the morning, you hear Mexican music blasting out loud, like instead of sleeping after a long week of
Your
work.
mom's cleaning all intense.
Yeah, it's like you better get up and be doing something. You can't be sitting there and doing absolutely nothing. Like you better get up and do something.
You know what's so funny? You just reminded me of something crazy. Sorry, mom, but vacations in my household growing up were extremely stressful because we
No.
did not vacation. We just had an itinerary of shit to do.
Oh,
Like even now as an adult, I tell my parents, I'm like, okay, well, are we gonna go somewhere? And they'll be like, yeah, let's go to the beach. And I'm like, cool, but I'm gonna rot on the beach with my book for like 3 days. And they're like, I know. There's so much to see and so much to do. And I'm like, yeah, then we're not gonna go because if I'm gonna vacation, I'm gonna do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not a damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Not have a specific agenda for every hour planned out.
Mm-mm.
See, and we're normalizing that burnout culture with kids now, right? Like they're overscheduled.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like I don't know if you've noticed, like with your clients who are maybe teenagers or like children, a lot of times like what they're experiencing is burnout. Like they have to go from school, which is like 8 hours a day, which is a whole ass full-time job.
Literally.
For a kid who doesn't have a fully developed frontal lobe or nervous system yet, right? And then they have to go to like karate and then go home and do homework and then go to t-ball and then take a shower and then like do more homework and then like they're overscheduled. Like it's wild.
Yeah, it's insane.
No, yeah, that's not good. Like conditioning, because then what are they learning? I'm not useful or praised or worthwhile unless I'm productive or doing something.
This is a whole tangent and I'm not going to go deep into it, but like the whole notion that like we're training kids to be for the workforce 7 to 4.
That's true.
And like a little 30-minute lunchtime. It's insane.
Yeah. Not good. Not healthy.
Okay.
Anyway, so you are not a robot. You are not a machine, especially if you're a therapist. Like we need your humanity and we need you to be well.
Yeah.
So if you're experiencing burnout or you've related to some of this stuff that we talked about in this episode today, remember you're in it for the long haul and we need good therapists. So please take care of yourself.
Yep. Yeah. A couple of things just before we finish. Some realistic recovery burnout looks like setting boundaries, maybe reducing some of the load, resting without guilt, which is easier said than done. Community support, ask for help, try to reconnect to your identity. Who are you outside of work, or who are you outside of your responsibilities? I think this also goes for parents, right? Who are you outside of your parenting role? And make sure that you take care of your nervous system. Our brain is incredibly smart and it can also learn to adapt to trauma in really chaotic ways. And so let's feed the brain the good stuff instead.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. And I think we're done with our topic. If you enjoyed our podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening on whatever podcatcher, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share our podcast. We also have a Patreon. You can find it in our Linktree so you can help us keep the podcast going. But for now, we are your co-hosts, Crystal Acosta and Andrea Luna on Through the Eyes of a Therapist podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.